Okay, so this is going to be another one that's intentionally blacked out, but we got to catch the waves when they come. So also good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you. Hope this is finding you in a good spot in your day wherever you are. So, one of the things that just I was thinking about, because I tend to have these, you know, moments of reflection. I spend a good amount of time in my own world, in quiet, and just being an introvert. I'm naturally more inclined to do my introverted processing. So, it being kind of the week before some things start picking up for me as far as like events and public appearances and things like this, one of the things that I was thinking about was just something I touched on in the last video, where I was just saying how grateful I am that I took my time. And I want to circle back on that because, for one, waiting can be painful. Like, I am somebody who I have tended to be someone who, I don't want to say that I am. I got Tony Robbins in my head rent free. But I tended to be someone who would get an idea or get inspired by something and like go take action on it immediately, and then expect it to like be fruitful right away. And it really wasn't until I started doing a little bit of traveling, when I was doing my digital nomad thing back around 21, 22, and, basically just working wherever I could get Wi-Fi and bring my laptop. And, you know, during that time, I started picking up this hobby of gardening. I really started to get more into gardening. I think a lot of us did in 2020, like it kicked up, and maybe even a couple years before that, because I remember having some garden beds at a few of my other places. So realistically, it was the seeds were there. I just hadn't had the time, because from like 2014 to 2019, I was going 100 miles an hour, just building and trying to get a ton of experience and a bunch of pivoting and things like that. And so by the time I got down to my slowdown era and realized that I needed to pivot because other people were trying to put me in a position that I didn't necessarily want to be in. And so I kind of stepped back to reevaluate, like, okay, what is the work that I'm doing? What's the impact that I'm having? And looking at perception and things like that, because I didn't want to get well known for the wrong thing. I'd rather have my peace and quiet at the end of the day. And it's not necessarily that anything I was doing before was wrong, but sometimes you can be doing the right thing at the wrong time, and from where I'm standing, it seems like God really does care about the season and the timing of things. Which is why sometimes when you get this idea to start a business or start a brand or to work on something, you go into it thinking like, oh yeah, this is about to be my quick fix for these bills that I gotta pay, or like rent that's due in a couple weeks, or, whatever the case might be. And the reality is that sometimes you can get an amazing idea and you can be building a really incredible business, but it takes you years to really get the foundation and get the structure up and to really feel it so that it feels like a home. And that's one of the things that brought me actually to come on here, because I just had this, as I was reflecting this morning, this analogy of a home being built, you know, because I was like, man, things are feeling good with Brand Evangelist, and things are feeling like they're aligning now. But man, did it take me several years and several tries at like the mission statement, the tagline, even having to pivot the website several times and then being forced to basically start over from scratch because there were some issues with retaining the backup as I was moving from one hosting provider to another for my website. And I can kind of like laugh and smirk about it now, but if this would have been me even a couple years ago or 5 years ago, it would have been something so detrimental that my website went away. Like I had a website, I had like WordPress installed and all these things. And, there was pages and there's history and all that on the website. And I think the older version of me would have been really upset because I would be so focused on the fact that it's going to look like to other people I'm not who I say that I am. But the reality is, if people can make that snap judgment based off of a moment in time when they happen to come across me and I just so happen to be building a house and that house is looking crazy because there's no walls up and it's all exposed and you can see it and you can see that I'm building something, but you can't quite see what kind of house I'm building yet. And, you're going to have your nosy neighbors, people that like to drive by, i.e. like keep visiting your website or keep visiting social media and point out the fact that there's a typo or things are out of place or something's off. And that's okay. You just smile at those people, tell them thank you for letting you know. And even though it might have been intended as a jab or something to get under your skin, you really can't appreciate the fact that somebody let you know that a link wasn't working or a button was off on your website. And so you just learn over time, I think, if you allow yourself to like really learn this lesson with patience and having quiet moments of solitude, even if you don't, live alone and have the luxury of having a lot of quiet time. You can at least go for a 10-minute walk, right? Maybe you have to get up earlier, or maybe you have to be the last one up a couple of nights a week to like get that walk in. But all it takes is you shifting your own time at the end of the day. So yes, it is hard. It is very hard to learn to be patient and learn the gift and the wisdom of building and understanding that when you're building something, and especially when you're building something that you want to be around for 100 or 200 years, that you really have to pay close attention to every little detail. I mean, I'm not a construction worker. I came real close to being an architect, but I have a lot of respect for those professions because what might look so simple to us, or what they make look so simple, I'm sure it's just because of years and years of practice, and also because of things that they've learned over the years that make a project go wrong. But that's to say, like, even as much as we might like to think that we could, it's kind of like when you're building a business, it's almost this mindset that, you're going to get shipped your house in a box, and you're just going to be able to open the box and there's your house. But let me tell you, any house that comes straight out of a box, you might want to be a little leery of, because you don't know the quality of the materials. You don't know if the structural engineer, if his math was mathing that day. Like, there's so many unknowns. And so what I believe in my heart, and just by bearing witness to some other people around me, is that God really does kind of want us all to become our own carpenters. Like, there's so many analogies that you can draw from, and so much meaning I think you can draw from the worldly profession that Jesus took up and was trained in. He was quite literally a builder. And I think of all the things that he could have been, that has some significance. And I've been so curious about that aspect of his life. And, just it's not something that we spend a lot of time thinking about or reflecting on, but, it's something that I can't seem to get out of my head, which is like one of the most influential people of all time, love him or hate him or leave him, whatever you choose. Like, you can't deny that he's one of, like, he was the original influencer, and he started a movement globally at a time when there was no social media, there were no brand deals, maybe kind of the priests would like give you a little cut or something for being on their side. But you know what I mean? It's like he was able to do that just off the strength of word of mouth and the strength of his character. And I think from those early days of him being a carpenter, being a builder, he was able to directly transfer that knowledge and that information to building a movement, building the church, building heaven inside of people's souls, And it started with being able to understand and appreciate that anything worth building is worth building right. And if you have a faulty foundation, it's going to show through in your structure. And the more you rush that foundational time of like building the house, i.e., building the business, building the brand, you're going to have to be more worried and kind of sleep with one eye open at night, because maybe there's a screw loose somewhere, or there's a bolt that's not like tightened well enough. And it's risky. It's risky to rush the build because you have a less sturdy house to grow into and to keep you contained and to be your base camp as you go throughout the different seasons of your life. So it's making a lot of sense for me. Hopefully it's making sense for you. I know I tend to stack analogies or just how I think about things sometimes, but it just felt really strong, like the analogy today coming through. And I know, a lot of people talk about the turn of a new year and all the different ways that shows up culturally for people in different sort of New Year celebrations and what this particular year means. But in spite of all that, I think just remembering the seasonality that we see in nature, and although we celebrate the calendar year starting over on January 1st, like we're at the very beginnings of this winter slumber, because of the fact that it just became winter time on December 21st of that prior year. And here we are by January 1st, 10, 20 days later, ready to pop back out and get rolling. And it's just, as I've gotten more older, felt increasingly more unnatural. And this year especially, I've really been having some time to myself to be in this winter season, which is all about, kind of hibernating, resting, conserving your energy, getting ready for the hustle and bustle that's going to definitely be happening in the following 6 months come spring and summer. But also the winter time is a great time for that reflection and, that quiet building that you kind of get to do with a little less eyes on you. And so if you're working on something right now and maybe you're feeling like, oh, this should have like happened already, it should have been out already, like maybe not. Like, because reality is, like, if we're on our biological clock, March 21st is kind of when you feel ready and like you have the energetic threshold to like pop back out and like have a full cup. But let's be real, wintertime just it takes a lot out of us. It just does. And I think that's okay. And I think it's also okay in saying all of this to recognize that sometimes people are going to look at what you're building and they might make a stink face. They might roll their eyes. They might ask questions. They might poke. They might laugh. But you are the one with the blueprint. You're the one building the house. You're the one, making those important, critical decisions about the foundation and making sure that what you're building is going to last. So don't let those external voices from people who aren't willing to pick up a hammer and nail and help you build, just allow them to walk by your house in awe and wonder once your mansion is done. And let it be okay that maybe people can't see it yet while you're building. It's not meant to be finished before it's finished. And it's sometimes it's going to take time, and it might take longer than you think it should. But if you just keep your eyes focused to the sky and keep your heart in a heavenly place, I really do feel like it becomes so much easier just to shut out all the noise and be like, no, I know that I'm on track because this is the right timing for me. And I know that I know because my voice, my intuition, what comes through it, prayer time, like whatever it is, like that's my North Star. And it's okay. It's okay to feel a little anxious and, to sweat a little bit because you feel rushed. If people are rushing you to go ahead and build the thing and put it out, it could also be a good thing. And just let you know, like, oh man, people really want this. And so you can reframe it that way too. So anyhow, I hope that this lesson in, building and understanding that before the house is complete, it's going to look messy, resonated with you. And I just want to leave you with the resonating question on this platform, which is, how will you use what God's given you? How will you use your talents? Look forward to meeting you in the comments, and I'll see you next time.